Hello and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Hafiz Marzukhi. Police announced the arrest of an Israeli man, including the seizure of 6 firearms. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussein says the arrest of the 36-year-old suspect was made on March 27th, just 2 weeks after the suspect entered Malaysia through the Kuala Lumpur International Airport on March 12th. According to him, interrogation against the suspect revealed that he had entered Malaysia using a French passport, and upon further questioning, he produced an Israeli passport. Although the suspect claims to have entered Malaysia to seek out another countryman to kill, Razaruddin says the police are not buying his story. Following the arrest, Razaruddin stressed on ensuring the safety of key figures in Malaysia, such as His Majesty the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Ibrahim and the Prime Minister, as investigators remain unconvinced by the suspect's admission. The government has no plans to extend the 2 days of toll exemption for Hari Raya Aidilfitri as previously announced. Deputy Works Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Maslan says the toll waiver for the 2 days, April 8th and 9th, will cost the government 38 million ringgit to pay the 33 highway concessionaires in the country.
He stressed that the decision not to extend days for the toll waiver was the Cabinet's decision, and it is final. On Thursday, Works Minister Datuk Seri Alexander Nantalinggi announced that the government had approved a 2-day toll-free period on April 8 and 9 for Class 1 private vehicle users on highways in conjunction with Aidilfitri. According to the ministry in a statement, this would have an estimated financial implication of 37.6 million ringgit. Meanwhile, Ahmad said that Plus anticipates approximately 2.1 million vehicles will use its highways daily during the holiday season, namely on April 5th, 6th, 9th, 12th, 13th and 14th, compared to 1.82 million during regular peak days. He said Plus will also mobilize over 4,500 personnel throughout its highway ecosystem to ensure quick response during the upcoming festive season.
The federal government has officially taken over the Penang Light Rail Transit or LRT Mutiara Line project from the state government. Transport Minister Anthony Loke says this following the approval given by the Cabinet for the proposed development of the project on March 22nd. He said that the government has officially decided to appoint MRT Corp, a company 100% owned by the Minister of Finance Incorporated, as the developer and asset owner. He added that the project will be implemented through open tender, while procurements will be divided into 3 main components. He said the 3 components are the contract for civil construction works for Segment 1, covering the Silicon Valley to Komta alignment, the contract for civil construction works for Segment 2, involving the Komta to Penang Central alignment, and the turnkey contract for systems and rolling stocks works on a bill maintain transfer or BMT basis. The Armed Forces Fund Board, or LTAT, today announced the appointment of retired General Tan Sri Azizan Arifin as its new chairperson and Muhammad Ashraf Razi as the new chief executive. Both of these appointments will be effective from 1st April 2024.
It said in a statement that Azizan brings with him a wealth of experience and leadership acumen, having served with distinction in the Malaysian Armed Forces for 40 years, including becoming the 17th Chief of Defence Force, the first from the Royal Malaysian Air Force. According to the statement, Azizan's extensive background in military affairs, diplomacy and leadership development will be instrumental in guiding LTAT towards its strategic objectives and enhancing its role in supporting the welfare of the armed forces personnel and their families. Meanwhile, LTAT said Muhammad Ashraf will assume the role of chief executive following his tenure as chief financial officer of LTAT since March 2020. It added that during his tenure, Ashraf demonstrated financial stewardship, spearheading the organization's financial strategies and ensuring fiscal responsibility. LTAT added that his leadership contributed to the organizational transformation agenda, resulting in the recovery of dividend levels to a sustainable rate, enhanced financial position, as well as improved operational effectiveness.
The Employees Provident Fund, or EPF, is set to roll out a 3rd account in April, offering members flexibility in withdrawing their pension funds. But with many Malaysians already struggling to save enough for retirement, what impact will this move have? Joseph Cherian, Practice Professor of Finance at the Asia School of Business, weighs in.
We're trying to keep assets in place and make sure it doesn't leak out of the system until you need it for retirement. And then we have this account 3 that was set up to provide more flexibility. That was the problem that got us, that was the outflow that caused, the flexibility is what allowed us or got us to this problem that we're at now. So adding an account 3 is going to exacerbate the problem. So I don't fully understand why they're doing it, because it's totally counterintuitive to the problem at hand.
While Account 3 aims to attract informal workers to contribute to the EPF and address members' cash flow concerns, Joseph believes there are better ways to achieve this than allowing flexible withdrawal.
We are many fall between the cracks, and we have to have empathy and compassion for our fellow citizens, right? So I think there should be a needs-based pension system, basic income system, not a get-rich scheme, but just to make sure that lower income, B40 or whatever level that is, the government has to decide what you can afford, gets a basic income that allows you to have a dignified standard of living. Not ostentatious, but a dignified standard of living. So those who are not covered, or those who have too low savings because of their position in society in terms of income, need to get support. So I think a basic pension system or basic income system is what I think would solve that problem.
Who's going to fund it?
So let me give you the case of Norway. So Norway has what's called the Norges Bank Investment Management. It's basically their sovereign fund. Royalties net of costs from oil. They've got North Sea oil. The royalties are channeled into this Norges Bank, which is basically their sovereign fund for social savings, social security savings. So what's happened, it's like a rainy day fund, just like how Singapore also has got these rainy day funds. So we've got a lot of natural resources, whether it's oil, palm oil, whatever the case is. We should be a bit disciplined, that's we meaning the government, and start channeling some of that, put it aside for a rainy day. That means for those who need it the most vulnerable. We can afford to do it because we are actually blessed in that sense. So my suggestion is we don't do a uniform basic income for everyone. Not everyone deserves it. It's the most vulnerable in society, those who are in the informal sector. We have to make sure that they get some basic income, what I call a dignified level of income.
We'll go for a short break. Stay with us.
Penatnya, terbang sana, terbang sini. Inilah antara sebabnya aku terlepas nak tengok rancangan kegemaran aku. Tapi apa dah hal? Dengan adanya Astro Go, balik je daripada kerja, aku boleh stream bila-bila masa di mana jua.
Encik Tarmim! Encik Tarmim!
Aduh, dia ni memekak ajalah. Stream tempat lain lah. Aman sikit.
Encik Tarmim, sekejap!
Muat turun aplikasi Astro Go sekarang. Percuma untuk pelanggan Astro.
Welcome back. US President Joe Biden and his Democratic predecessor, Barack Obama, headlined a star-studded fundraiser with former President Bill Clinton offering a defense of the White House's handling of the Gaza crisis as protesters gathered on the streets outside the event. Demonstrators waving Palestinian flags denounced the US administration's foreign policy, particularly its support for Israel, branding the Democratic leaders as war criminals. Protesters expressed their disillusionment with the current political climate, vowed not to support Biden in upcoming elections, citing the military aid sent to Israel and the impact on Palestinians. Others turned to prayer amidst the echoing chants for change and peace taking place outside the Biden's fundraiser venue.
I came out here today to protest President Biden, who all of us here consider a war criminal. He's giving Israel billions of dollars in weapons and military aid to murder innocent Palestinians, 14,000 children already to destroy all of Gaza and commit a genocide, and we're here to say that's unacceptable. They need to cut off all arms and weapons to aid and have an immediate ceasefire now.
They have sold out their constituents because about 80% of the Democratic base doesn't support what is happening in Gaza right now, doesn't support the U.S.'s complicity in what is happening in Gaza. This is our genocide as well as Israel's, and they have sold us all out.
I came here for Palestine, came here for Yemen, came here for Lebanon, Syria. I came here for all of the Middle East because what's happening is just horrible. It's a genocide, and I want the United States to stop the wars. You know, just constant wars in the Middle East.
Biden, who traveled with Obama on Air Force One to New York, took part in a discussion with Clinton, moderated by the Late Show host Stephen Colbert, at the iconic Radio City Music Hall in front of thousands of guests. Organizers say the event raised more than $25 million for Biden's US re-election campaign. But the fundraiser event was also punctuated by several protests inside the massive auditorium, with attendees rising at several different moments to shout over the discussion, referencing Biden's backing of Israel in the Hamas war that has killed more than 30,000 people in Gaza. At least 45 people were killed and one seriously injured in South Africa after the bus they were in plunged some 50 meters off a bridge into a ravine. An 8-year-old girl, the only survivor, was taken to the hospital with serious injuries.
The incident occurred near Mamatlakala in northern province of Limpopo. The passengers were pilgrims traveling from Botswana's capital Gaborone to an Easter service in the town of Moria. South Africa's Department of Transport alleged that the driver lost control and collided with barriers on the bridge, causing the bus to go over the bridge and hit the ground where it caught fire. Rescue operations went on late into Thursday evening, with some of those killed reportedly hard to reach amid the debris.
With millions living with autism spectrum disorder worldwide, what are we doing to help our neurodivergent youth thrive? Dr. Charlene Marie Samuel from the Autism Behavioral Center highlights the typical pathways for youth on the spectrum and the lack of readily available support systems in the country.
So unfortunately in Malaysia there is no platform that you can access, that you get all of the information that you need. A lot of the homework actually has to be done by parents. So in the early stages of receiving an intervention, some clinics, some hospitals, some doctors are kind enough to put together their own lists of this is where you can go to. But often a lot of the homework has to be done by the parents themselves. So we do have what's most common in terms of intervention for children with autism or people with autism that tend to be younger in the initial stage of being diagnosed early is speech and occupational therapy, which is the go-to usually. Speech therapy usually addresses speech and communication. Occupational therapy addresses attention, sensory challenges. And the third option would be ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. So this is what ABC does. So ABA is a method of teaching, essentially using the principles of reinforcement. It is very intensive, and because of that, we also see much more rapid improvements in skills.
Meanwhile, consultant psychologist Katyana Azman dispels one of the most common misconceptions about individuals on the spectrum.
The role of the media or just lack of awareness, there is this picture painted of someone who is not capable. And that, again, limits them in a lot of ways. So whenever parents hear that word, immediately you start to see them, you know, kind of panic that their child will not be able to be independent, be successful, to live their own life, get married, have a job, all of those things. And I think that that is absolutely not true for a lot of them. Yes, there are children and individuals who are going to require a lot of support throughout the rest of their life, but there's a reason why autism is called a spectrum, or it's a spectrum, and there are different levels, because there are people who are capable of all of those things.
Catch the full conversation on It's About Youth every Friday at 10:30 p.m. only on Astro AWANI.
And that wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.